Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up a file that on the surface well, it looks like comfort food. You see the cover, you see the title, DragonKnight by Donita K, and your brain just immediately files it away, right?
Swords, sorcery, a quest. It ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, it feels like standard operating procedure for high fantasy. You think you know exactly what you're getting into.
It absolutely wears the costume of a traditional fantasy novel.
Hmm.
But, once you start peeling back the layers of these first, say, 17 chapters, you realize the texture is completely different. It isn't really about the sword swinging at all.
No, not at all. It's about the logistics of a road trip with people you absolutely cannot stand.
That is a very, very accurate way to put it. It's the ultimate reluctant adventure.
So here's our mission today. We are going to analyze the journey of this main character, Squire Bardon. And we're going to look at, everything. The socioeconomic structures of this world, Amara, the sort of biological horror that's hidden inside its monsters.
And the psychological profile of a hero who, quite frankly, just wants to be left alone.
He just wants a nap.
He really does. And that is the hook, right? Usually in this genre, you have a farm boy staring at the horizon, just desperate for adventure to come find him.
Right. Get me out of here.
Exactly. Bardon is the opposite. He has seen the horizon, he knows what's out there, and he has decided he would much, much prefer a nap in a quiet, dusty cabin.
So let's contextualize the world first before we dive into Bardon himself. We are in Amara, and for anyone who hasn't read the source material, this is not a human-centric setting. Not really. We're dealing with what's basically a caste system of different species.
Correct. You have what the book calls the high races, and these are your civilized societies. You've got the Emerlindians, who are basically your tall, long-lived elf analogs.
Pointy ears, the whole deal.
The whole deal. Then you have Daniels, Moriones, Tumenhoffers. It's a real melting pot. And then, completely distinct from them, you have the low races, which are, the beasts, the monsters, the things that go bump in the night.
But dragons. Dragons occupy this really unique space in this whole taxonomy. They're not high race, they're not low race.
They really do. In Amara, a dragon isn't a monster to be slain. That's just not how they're viewed. They are citizens. Well, more than citizens, even they are bonded partners. If you're a dragon keeper or a knight, that dragon is, for all intents and purposes, your other half.
They're intelligent?
Highly intelligent. They have language. They have complex personalities. They're not just mounts.
Which brings us perfectly to Bardon. Let's build his profile. He's a squire to this diplomat figure, Sir Dar. He's been raised in a place called the Hall, which sounds like, what, a military boarding school?
That's the perfect description. He's been there since he was 6 years old. And his mental state when we meet him in chapter 1 is just burnout. Absolute clinical burnout. He is completely done. He's on what's called a sabbatical. In this culture, before a squire can take their final vows to become a paladin, a servant to mankind, they are mandated to take time off. They have to go meditate, be alone, and ask themselves the big question, do I actually want to do this for the rest of my life?
And Bardon's internal monologue seems to be leaning very heavily toward, no, I do not.
Oh, heavily. He is wrestling with the entire concept of service. Because to serve mankind, you have to, interact with mankind. And Bardon finds people utterly exhausting.
He really does. And he has this coping mechanism that I find fascinating. He's constantly reciting these things called principles.
Yes. They're like these religious or philosophical maxims he's memorized. It's his go-to move whenever he gets stressed or annoyed.
It feels almost like a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, He gets annoyed, his blood pressure spikes, and he just forces himself to think. Principle 42. Patience is the shield of the wise. It's like he's trying to talk himself down.
Exactly. He uses structure to contain his emotions. The book calls him a girder. He wants life to be rigid, predictable, architectural. But, and this is key, there's a physical insecurity that's driving a lot of this too.
The ears.
The ears. The text makes a real point of mentioning he wears his hair long to hide his ears because they're pointed.
He has Emerlindian ears, but he's not fully Emerlindian.
Right. He's mixed heritage. And in a world where your race determines so much, your social standing, your lifespan, how people treat you, being a hybrid makes you an outsider to everyone. He doesn't fit into the neat little boxes that he so desperately loves.
Which is probably why the only person, or I guess being, he seems to genuinely truly like is Greer.
Oh, Greer is just a delight. He's a major dragon, which means he's one of the big ones. Purple scales, cobalt wings.
Yeah.
But if you're picturing this majestic, silent, noble steed, just delete that image from your mind right now.
Not even close.
Greer is a snarky roommate. They communicate through mind speaking, which is telepathy. And Greer spends I would say 90% of his time just roasting Bardon.
It's a very grounding dynamic, isn't it? Bardon is trying to be all serious and holy and on his spiritual journey, and there's literally a dragon inside his head laughing at him for it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, Bardon takes Greer. They fly to the Morchain Mountains. He finds this perfectly secluded cabin that belongs to his mentor, Sir Dar. This is it, the sabbatical. Silence, dust, meditation. He's ready.
And instead, he walks in and smells fresh bread.
The ultimate betrayal. The absolute worst thing that could have happened to him in that moment.
It really is the inciting incident. It's the intrusion of the world into his carefully constructed sanctuary. He finds not one but 3 women in his cabin. But before he can even process the social horror of that, the source material throws him directly into physical horror.
It's a 1-2 punch. He goes fishing just to blow off steam to get away from the people in his house.
And this scene does such a good job of establishing the physical stakes of this world. He's attacked by a writher snake.
And this is not a garden snake. The text describes it as having muscles like steel cables. It lives in the water, and its primary mechanic, its whole thing, is drowning its prey. It wraps around Bardon's legs and just pulls him down.
And Bardon's a trained warrior, right? He's not helpless. He has a knife. He has years of training, but he is losing this fight. He is literally drowning.
He is. And it takes this wild, chaotic combination of a dragon and a screaming woman with an axe to save his life.
This scene is just pure chaos. Greer dives into the lake, which, has to be incredibly undignified for a massive dragon, and just hauls Bardon out of the water.
But the snake is still clamped on. So you have this insane visual of a dragon flying out of a lake, a man dangling from the dragon's claws, and a giant snake dangling from the man.
And then Enray, one of the uninvited house guests, comes charging in with an axe and just hacks the thing to pieces, screaming the whole time.
It's a messy, bloody, and frankly, very loud introduction to his new companions.
So let's break down this fellowship of the ring that Bardon just inherited against his will. First up, we have Enray.
Enray is basically the wild child archetype. She's Emeraldian, so she's physically stunning white blonde hair, blue eyes. But she was raised by these creatures called Rapma, which are described as simple forest-dwelling creatures.
So she has 0 social graces.
Less than 0. She's deeply, almost painfully empathetic. But she has absolutely no concept of personal space, boundaries, or any kind of courtly manners. She just doesn't get it.
Okay, then we have her grandmother, Granny Kai.
Who is, you could argue, the most dangerous person in the entire group, simply because she is a pure agent of chaos. She's an elderly painter. She appears completely scatterbrained.
Appears.
Right, appears. But she has this frighteningly accurate intuition. Her paintings, they reveal truths that people are trying to hide. She greets Bardon, a man she's never met, by saying, "Oh, I've been expecting you," which for a pragmatist like him is just maddening.
It's his worst nightmare. And finally, the Minikin, Chusino.
And whatever you do, do not call her a rodent. She will be very offended.
Okay, duly noted.
She is, 6 inches tall. She looks like a mouse wearing a cape made of moonbeams. But she identifies as a warrior, a fierce warrior. She is Enray's self-appointed protector.
And the contrast between her tiny size and her enormous ego provides a lot of the humor, right?
It does. But what's important is that the text is very careful to show she's actually competent. She's not a joke. She is fierce.
So Bardon wants them out. Immediately. But they finally drop the plot hook on him. They aren't there on vacation. They're on a rescue mission to the Northern Reach.
This is where the lore starts to deepen quite a bit. Enray's father, a knight named Sir Gilles, along with a bunch of other knights, has been held captive for years.
They were captured by a wizard named Risto, but Risto is dead now.
He is. But his spell, the thing holding them, remains. And the stronghold where they're being kept has been taken over by 2 new villains, Crimcropper and Burner Stocks.
We absolutely need to put a pin in those names because they sound so silly. Crimcropper and Burner Stocks, it sounds like a comedy duo.
It really does.
But what they are doing is anything but funny.
No, it's a classic fantasy misdirect. You give the villains silly names to lower the reader's guard, and then you reveal their horrifying actions. And we will definitely get to their specific brand of evil in a moment.
But for now, the immediate problem is time. There's a comet coming, the wizard's plume. The spell holding the knights can only be broken when that comet passes under a celestial landmark called the Eye of the North.
It's a literal celestial ticking clock. If they miss that window, the knights remain trapped forever. Game over.
So, of course, Bardon tries to refuse. This is not his problem. He walks away. He literally storms off into the woods to pout.
He does. And then The universe, or Wolder, which is the deity of this world, sends a mountain cat to attack him.
It's not very subtle, is it?
Not at all. The universe is basically screaming at him, "You cannot be alone! Every single time you try to be alone, you nearly die." Get the hint. And Bardon, to his credit, finally realizes the interruption is the assignment. He agrees to lead them.
Okay, so now we get into the practicalities. The logistics of travel. They use something called a gateway that's in the cabin's cellar. And I want to highlight the magic system here because it's so tactile. It's not just a sparkle filter and a whoosh sound.
No, it's uncomfortable. It's described as physically squeezing you. The gateway puts this immense pressure on your body to transport it across space. It's an unpleasant, claustrophobic experience.
And practically speaking, it also means Greer can't fit.
The dragon is way too big, so they have to split the party immediately, right at the start. Greer has to fly the long way, while the humanoids warp directly to the city of Norst.
They arrive in Norst, and they immediately hit the single most relatable obstacle in the entire book.
They are broke.
Completely broke.
It's such a classic problem, but it's handled so well here. Granny Kai had funding. The head of the Paladin Order gave her a stash of money for the mission.
But she gave it all away.
All of it. She's pathologically charitable. On the way to the cabin, she met a wheelwright who needed a new hammer, a milk boy who needed new shoes, and she just gave them the mission funds.
Which is a lovely virtue in a vacuum, but a terrible vice when you're trying to fund a time-sensitive rescue mission.
Precisely. It forces Bardon to engage with the economy. He can't just adventure his way out of this problem. He needs a job. And this whole detour into the economics of Norst is, I think, one of the stronger parts of these early chapters.
I agree. He ends up at Hodak's farm.
Right. And Hodak breeds these creatures called Kindias. Describe these for us.
Okay, so imagine a horse that has been hitting the gym 7 days a week and has a really bad attitude.
That's a great description.
They're large, they're striped, they're riding beasts designed specifically for rough mountainous terrain, and Hodak needs them broken domesticated for sale. It's incredibly dangerous work.
And Bardon, being the competent, physically capable person he is, steps up. He decides to break the first one, a beast named Mig. And this scene is just grueling to read.
It's 8 hours of pure physical punishment. He's battered against fences, he's thrown to the ground over and over, he's completely exhausted. He conquers the animal through sheer force of will and endurance.
It's the old way of doing things, right? Domination, control, forcing the animal into submission. And then Enray steps in. She watches Bardon nearly kill himself doing this and just says, "Let me try."
And this is the great clash of methodologies. Bardon uses force, Enray uses empathy.
She uses her mind-speaking ability, but not to command the animals. She projects images to them, images of a warm stall with fresh straw, full feed buckets, safety from predators. She shows them the benefits of domestication.
She doesn't break them, she gentles them. She's essentially creating a contract. If you work with us, this is what you get in return.
And it is incredibly effective. She gentles 5 of them in a single day. But Hodak, the farmer, is a cynical old man. He thinks it has to be a trick. He's convinced that animals that aren't beaten into submission won't hold up under real stress.
So he demands a stress test.
A race. A grueling cross-country endurance run over a mountain called Old Man Peak.
This is a great action set piece. We see Bardon riding this Kindia named Ten, and they're sliding down these steep shale mountainsides, dodging these massive ancient trees called monarch trees. It's a really well-written, dangerous sequence.
And it proves that Enray's method works. The animals are not only cooperative, they're still spirited and tough. They win the race.
But Hodak sees this talent of Enray's, this unbelievable ability to essentially program biological assets, and he just sees crude science. He sees money.
He immediately tries to trap them. He wants to marry Enray off to his son, Holt Hodak. Not because he likes Enray, not because it's a good match, but because he wants to lock down her intellectual property. He wants her unique skill exclusively for his family business.
It's purely transactional, and Bardon, who is already at the end of his rope with people, is having absolutely none of it. He forcefully takes their payment, and they get out of there.
They flee. But I want to talk for a second about Holt, the son, because he doesn't stay at the farm. He follows them.
Right. And Holt is such a fascinating subversion of the handsome prince trope. He's good-looking, he's charming, he dresses well, he seems like the romantic lead.
He really does.
But as we find out later, he is an absolute disaster of a human being.
We will definitely get to his big reveal in a bit. So for now, the party escapes the marriage plot. They finally have cash in their pockets, and they book passage on a riverboat called the Morning Lady.
And this is where the genre just shifts on a dime. We leave the rural farm adventure behind and walk straight into a horror movie.
The Quiz attack.
Yeah. This creature design is genuinely disturbing. It's not a generic monster.
It is not. A Quiz is one of the low races. It's an aquatic monster.
Yeah.
And it has these boneless arms that are covered in suction cups. But, and this is the horrifying part, inside each suction cup is a hollow tongue that drills into flesh and sucks out blood and tissue.
It leaves the victim as just a husk, an empty bag of skin and bone.
It's awful. And Bardon wakes up in the middle of the night to a disturbance. He goes on deck and finds a crewman who's already been drained. He has to fight this thing in the dark on a moving boat.
And he kills it. He manages to skewer it. But the fight itself isn't the most important part of the scene. The really important part is what happens as the creature is dying. And Ray, with her complete lack of psychic boundaries, connects her mind to the dying monster.
And this right here is the deep dive insight. This isn't just a random monster of the week encounter.
No, this is the moment the whole plot pivots. Ray sees the creature's memories, and she learns that this quiz was made. It was bred in a laboratory by Crimcropper and Burner stocks.
They're taking these naturally aquatic monsters and genetically splicing them to have lungs and legs. They're trying to create an army of amphibious biological weapons.
And the creature was in constant, agonizing pain. Its new lungs burned every time it tried to breathe air. Its legs didn't work right. It was starving because it couldn't hunt effectively on land or in water anymore.
It completely changes the entire complexion of the villains. They aren't just some generic evil wizards holding knights for ransom. They are geneticists perverting nature. They are creating suffering on a cellular level for their own gain.
And the worst part is a memory Ray sees of the woman Burner stocks laughing. Laughing at the creatures while they starve and are forced to eat each other in their pens.
It's a moment of pure, casual evil, and it completely traumatizes Ray. And it also forces Bardon to step up, not just as a warrior, but as a stabilizer. He has to be the one to talk her down from that psychic break.
It really bonds the group in a new way. Even Jusino, the prickly little minikin, starts to respect Bardon after seeing him fight. They all realize the stakes are so much higher than they thought. They aren't just rescuing Dad anymore.
They're trying to stop a bioterror operation.
Exactly. So they arrive in the port city of Iana with this heavy cloud hanging over them. And of course, waiting on the dock, leaning against a post like he's the star of the show, is Holt Hodak.
The bad penny turns up again.
He does. And he claims he's there for love. He was just so smitten with Ray that he had to follow her. Ray, being naive, buys it hook, line, and sinker. Bardon, being Bardon, immediately assumes he's a spy sent by his father.
But they have more important thing to do, so they kind of ignore him for a moment. They need a map of the Northern Reach, so they go visit a Tumenhofer mapmaker, a guy named Bromtotter Pindusit.
Which is a bit of a mouthful.
I practiced that one. Bromtotter Pindusit. He's this chaotic, grumpy shopkeeper shouting at his daughter, digging through these huge piles of junk. But he provides the next piece of the puzzle, the Diary of Cadden Glass.
And Cadden Glass was an explorer who actually mapped the north. So the diary has the route they need. The problem...
It's written in Meech.
A language barrier. It's another practical problem. None of them speak Meech.
Exactly. So the map maker, who has a severe case of wanderlust, itchy feet, he called it, basically decides to invite himself along on the quest. He'll be their translator. So the party expands again. Now we've got the Squire, the Wild Girl, the Painter Granny, the Mouse Warrior, and the Grumpy Mapmaker.
It's quite the crew, but they still have the Holt problem. So Bardon decides to solve it the old-fashioned way. He follows Holt into an alley, fully expecting to catch him reporting back to his father or something nefarious.
Instead, he finds Holt getting the stuffing beaten out of him by a couple of local thugs.
Right. So Bardon, sighing internally, I'm sure, intervenes. He uses some very cool Aikido-style redirects to save Holt's skin. And then he pins him against a wall and demands the truth. And the truth is just pathetic.
It's so pathetic. Holt isn't a spy. He's a degenerate gambler. He owes massive debts to a crime lord in the city. He had promised to deliver those 5 gentled Kindias, the ones Bardon and Ray broke, to cover his debt.
Animals he didn't even own.
Exactly. So when his father canceled the deal and Bardon took the animals and left, Holt had to run for his life. He's not following Ray for love. He's using Bardon's party as a human shield to escape the city alive.
It's such a human motivation. It's not some grand world-ending evil. It's just desperate, selfish stupidity.
Yeah.
But it puts their entire mission in danger.
It absolutely does. But Bardon is stuck. He can't just leave Holt to get murdered in an alley.
Yeah.
But he knows he can't trust him as far as he can throw him.
So amidst all this city stress, the lies, the complications, Bardon hits his breaking point again. He needs his anchor. He sneaks out of the city and into the countryside to find Greer.
And this scene is so essential. It's quiet. Bardon just sits on a hill, Greer lands, and they just exist together for a moment. And Bardon downloads all his stress telepathically. He just unloads everything on Greer, the quiz, the gambling debt, the annoying map maker, all of it.
And Greer, in his infinite draconic wisdom, just laughs.
He finds humans and their problems absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that laughter, that external perspective, is exactly what Bardon needs. It puts everything back into scale for him.
And they also meet some local farmers here, and we get this crucial little bit of world building. The farmers are completely shocked to see a dragon.
They are. They say that dragons used to be common, that trade between the provinces was constant. But now, seeing a dragon is rare. Commerce is drying up. The provinces are all isolating themselves from each other.
It paints this picture of a world in decline. The arteries of civilization are slowly clogging up, and it raises the stakes again. If they don't fix the problem in the north, this decay, this isolation might become permanent.
So Bardon returns to the inn later that night, feeling, well, maybe not good, but a little more recharged, a little more centered. He walks into the room, ready to take charge of the situation. And that's where we hit the cliffhanger for this entire section of the book.
Yeah. Enray is on her bed, crying her eyes out. Holt is passed out, dead drunk on the other bed. And the inn's cook pulls Bardon aside and whispers, "The constable has been here, asking questions."
Total operational failure. Complete and utter disaster. There's supposed to be a secret, low-profile rescue mission.
And instead, they are officially on the police radar. They're harboring a fugitive gambler. Their guide is drunk. Their emotional center is a wreck. And they haven't even left the Southern Territories yet.
It's a glorious mess.
It really is. So looking at these first 17 chapters as a whole, what is the synthesis here? What are we really seeing in Bardon's development?
I think we're seeing the complete dismantling of the solitary hero myth. Bardon wants to be a lone wolf. He's been trained to believe that strength comes from independence, from self-reliance. But every single challenge he faces, the snake, the Kindias, the quiz, the map, it requires a different skill set that he doesn't have.
Right. He can fight the snake, but he can't get it off him. He needs Greer's strength and Enray's ferocity.
And he can break a Kindia through force, but he can't gentle 5 of them in a day. He needs Enray's empathy. He can't read the map. He needs the mapmaker's language skills. He's being forced to learn that his principles are great for keeping himself calm, but they don't actually solve external problems.
Cooperation does.
Cooperation does. And he's also learning that you just can't schedule your life.
Yeah.
He planned a sabbatical. He got a war. There's this great line from his mentor, Serdar, who told him, "There is never a right reason to do the wrong thing." And Bardon is realizing he can't just walk away from this because it wasn't on his calendar.
And that's maybe the big takeaway for you listening today. We all have our sabbatical plans, don't we? The way we think our year or our career or our life is supposed to go, we have it all mapped out, and then the interrupt happens.
A crisis, a new person walks into your life, a sudden, unexpected change. And usually our first instinct is to fight the interrupt. We resent it. Bardon certainly does.
He hates it.
He hates it. But what this story seems to be suggesting is that the interrupt is the plot. The thing you are so desperately tripping to avoid is often the very thing you are supposed to be doing, your real journey.
That is a terrifying thought for those of us who like our calendars color-coded.
Indeed it is.
So we're going to leave Bardon there, in that messy inn room, staring at a drunk gambler and waiting for the police to come knocking. Next time, we'll see if they can actually manage to get out of the city and finally head north to face the genetic horrors of Crimcropper and burner stocks.
I can't wait to get into that.
Until then, keep your principles handy, but maybe don't be afraid to let a little chaos in. Thanks for listening.